Hello, welcome. It looks a little different, um, but I've come to talk about growing up too fast, and kind of what that looks like as an adult. So I have experience with this. I grew up pretty fast. Um, I didn't really get to enjoy much of my childhood. There wasn't a lot of childhood there. Uh, my dad did his best, but ultimately it wasn't up to him. So I grew up entirely too fast, and every time I try talking about something with someone older than me, could be a coworker, fucking anybody, right? Um, they assume that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm 25 years old, and there's a lot of things that I have to learn. Absolutely. I would like to think that everybody has a lot to learn in life in general. You know what I mean? But what most people don't understand or maybe don't realize about people who grow up too fast. Granted, I don't advertise that I grew up fast. I don't advertise that at all. Um, but what people don't seem to realize is I was doing things as a teenager that people do my age right now. Like I was doing all kinds of dumb shit that would get you in a lot of trouble as an adult that people do now at my age. I've seen a lot of things and I have lived through a lot of shit. Um, and I that all started very early for me. So I kind of have, for the most part, I kind of have a different outlook on a lot of things. And there are things that I want that I don't really hear a lot from people my age or even around my age. You know what I mean? It's weird for me to try to talk to most people my age or even younger than me about uh whatever the case may be, lived experience or whatever. I sometimes talk like I've lived a few lifetimes and people look at me funny. Like how the fuck would you know? You know what I mean? Or they just assume that I'm just spouting shit because I'm young. I am young, but I again, I had to grow up very fast, and that's not something I'm necessarily proud of. It's not something that I think is a flex. Like it's not fun for me to reflect on being a child and not being able to enjoy it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I deal with most of the time. People will tell me about things that were going on in their childhood, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy to think about. Like I love that for you. Um, and I don't advertise that I grew up too fast or I didn't have this or I didn't have that as a child. I don't do that. But it's just funny to me to think about. It's not funny, not funny, haha. It's funny, weird. Uh, because I can't imagine having lived a life like that. You know. So I've come to realize as an adult I have a lot of goals that most people don't think about until they're in their 30s, or if they do think about it, they're more than likely either they were raised in a smart way or they also grew up too fast at my age. You know what I mean? Like those people my age who think about the same things that I do or think about things the same way that I do, it's usually one or the other. Um, and I genuinely hope it's just people who were raised by smart people who knew how to raise a kid, who knew how they should let their child be a child and then as they grow up, teach them how to be an adult instead of somebody growing up too fast and having to learn the hard way of how to be an adult. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot that I am still learning and still figuring out as an adult. But I try to learn something. I don't want to say every day because I'm not that good. But I do try to learn something in every situation, like I doesn't matter what the situation is. For me, I like learning. And if it's something that will benefit me as a person or help me grow or help me achieve a goal as an adult, that's what I want. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's what I want. I'm thinking about a family and house ownership, home ownership, excuse me, and all that kind of shit and like how I'm going to provide for a family and all that kind of shit cuz this whole like dating culture this dating culture that we have I think is fucking garbage. People are way too comfortable with being shitty and expecting this, that, or the third of their partner all the time. I saw a video once. It was like this woman, I don't remember if she cheated or divorced her husband or broke up with her boyfriend. It was one of those. It was a breakup or it was cheating. Fuck, maybe both. I don't know. I don't remember. But it was because he couldn't provide for a short period of time for her. He couldn't come up with some money for something for a brief moment, like I'm short on this for a month. The economy fucking sucks right now, like unless unless you have a really good situation or you're very well off financially, the economy kind of fucking sucks. Um, for small business owners too, like that shit is not easy. This man was providing for his woman, and I think it was the one time that he couldn't do it. Like it resulted in the end of a relationship and heartbreak, and that shit's wild to me. That's not a that's not what I would define as a wife. You know what I mean? I don't want another short relationship. I don't want like, oh, give me some attention, like I don't want any of that shit. I don't want this pump and dump culture. Like I don't care. First of all, that shit's exhausting. Secondly, I don't want it at all. It's fucking gross to me. There's so much about all of this shit at 25 years old that I find absolutely disgusting. And most of it is the behavior of people when it comes to their person. And I put that in air quotes because clearly it's not your person if you're willing to do XYZ and fuck it up. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's weird to think about because I look at finances differently than I think a lot of people do, at least close to my age range, I guess. Like I want to save up to set up for life, and so I'm doing that, and I hear people somewhere around my age who are like, I just got paid. I'm gonna go spend this amount on dumb shit, or I'm gonna buy this much alcohol and just fucking I'm gonna party my ass off, like, and that's cool, I don't have any judgment towards that, but I don't care to do that shit. I did that already, you know? I went through my childhood in survival mode, so I figured out a lot of shit on my own the hard way. Granted, I absolutely had people who were willing to teach me things and willing to give me wisdom on certain subjects. I had a lot of that as well from like adults at school when I was a kid. I've had people even lay wisdom on me as an adult, and I listened to that as an adult. As a kid, before I before I really like couldn't enjoy childhood anymore, like I didn't listen to that because I didn't care. Now it's a little different. I look at relationships, whether that be platonic or not. Um, I look at relationships a whole different way than I think a lot of people do. It's a weird thing. Like there's a lot of things that I still have to learn and a lot of things that I would still like to work on as I grow. Maybe some maybe some healing needs to happen in certain aspects as well. But I generally am the one giving advice to people. Generally. Um I'm like I'm almost like the therapist friend, you know? It's a weird dynamic for me. I'm 25 and I'm telling other people around my age, like, hey, if you do this, this will happen and that will benefit you. Like it's just weird for me. Again, growing up fast is not something I am happy about. It's not like this is a flex for me. It's just fucking weird. So I got curious and I had a lot of thoughts on what happens with people who grow up fast and when they get into adulthood. I wasn't prepared necessarily for all of the aspects of adulthood, but I fucking figured it out really quick. I didn't have a choice. Especially at 18, I didn't have a choice. Not because like I have kids or anything, but because I had to figure out how I was going to live. I got kicked out of my house at 18 years old, which was honestly probably for the better, considering that specific situation. But like I had to figure it out. So I fucking figured it out. 7 years later, here we are. Now I have a savings. I have credit cards that I have a credit card that I'm paying off. My goal is always saving money. I'll I'll splurge every once in a while, but it's usually a video game or something along those lines. New piece of technology or whatever the fuck. Um, but it's not like I go and buy a jet ski or anything like that. Not quite yet. But I don't really care to like do the partying. I don't even have alcohol in my house right now. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. And it's weird because generally people have, at least people I surrounded myself with at one point, that's almost all they want to do is just party or get fucked up to, for what reason, I don't know. I can make all the assumptions I want based on the experience I had with my partying. But I don't live in their heads, so I don't fucking know. When I was doing the partying, it was to avoid trauma and avoid facing whatever feelings I was feeling, but didn't want to. That's what partying was for me. It was a mask and a way of escapism. That's all it was. I don't really care to do all that anymore. It's weird. It's a weird time for me, specifically. Um, there's a lot going on in the brain and a lot of growth that I'm trying to accomplish. And I've heard both. I shouldn't be worried about that, and um, I have a good head on my shoulders. I've heard it both ways, you know. And granted, I don't have to have everything figured out at 25 years old, but that's my goal, you know. My goal is to have things figured out, and what I don't have figured out, I want to learn, you know. At least things that I care to learn. I don't care to do a lot of things, you know, but the things that I do care to do, I fucking I'll spend 6 hours on the same shit. Like if I'm getting information from a podcast and it makes sense, logically to use, I will listen to a 2 hour episode twice, or I will spend 6 hours on the same shit trying to figure it out. Whatever it is. I I like learning. If I don't have it figured out, I'm gonna fucking figure it out. And that goes with a lot in my life, especially dealing with like depression and shit like that as an adult. It's a weird thing for me personally because I didn't do that as a kid. I knew it was there, but I didn't know how to deal with it. And if I the closest thing I had to therapy as a teenager was a guidance counselor, and they're not therapists. They'll sit there and listen to you, but they're not fucking therapists. So I don't know. I figured it out. I in a sense just had to put my chin down and swing for the fences. I was a felon at 20 years old. Again, it's not something I'm proud of. It's not a flex for me, but that's my life. Especially since um, getting out, getting away from um, the legal system in terms of like being a criminal in the system. Um, there's been a lot that I just think about differently now, and that was just last year. I just got away. I got off of probation September 1st of 2023. It is October 30th, 2024 right now. In that year, it has felt like an absolute fucking eternity, but there has been so much that I have changed perspectives on in that short amount of time. A lot of they said they said people have told me that a lot can happen in a year, you know, um, and I didn't understand the extent of that until this year, this past year. You know, I moved across the country. I moved 1,000 miles away from home, and I fucking figured it out. I've made it work because I started thinking about things in a different way, and while I've been doing that, my perspective changed. Whether that be because I got more information on things, or I got new goals in mind, or whatever. At 25, it just feels weird to say. Like I want to be the I want to be that guy who's got the wife and the kids and able to provide for them. I want that at 25. That feels strange to say out loud because I feel like this probably isn't always the case, but I feel like most people my age or close to my age don't have kids on purpose. You know, I don't feel like that's a thing for most people. But I would love to hear if that's not the case for you. I would love to know if you're around my age and you're having kids on purpose. Because I feel like that's rare, if it even happens, you know? I don't know. I just feel like I'm a old man who's only 25. You know what I mean? It's strange. I feel strange. So, kind of just wanted to talk about that and get other people's perspectives. Like I fucking think about retirement at 25. Like what do I want my retirement to look like? How am I going to get there? Like what can I do to make sure that I'm not, 65 to 70 still working? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be working at 25, let alone then, you know. I want to be able to put myself in retirement way before then. That'd be fucking cool. But I got to figure that out. That's one of those things that like I think that far ahead. I think about like the kind of house I want and what I'm willing to do to a house if I don't like whatever about it. I don't know. It may not even be that weird for me to think about that kind of shit at 25, but it feels weird to me. So I would love some feedback if you're anything like that, or if you think about things in a similar way, or if you did when you were my age, whatever. Like I would love to know because it just feels like it feels weird to be thinking about at 25, but that's what's always on my mind, you know? It's not ever just how do we get to the next day? It's how do we get to a step closer to having the things that I'm dreaming of, you know? So, I don't know. I'd love to hear. I will see you in the next one. It probably won't be as weird, but it'll look like this. Okay, bye.